Day 509 of doing a LeetCode problem every day until I get a job. All right, y'all, we're back again. Another day, another LeetCode problem where we're doing daily LeetCode problems. And today we have question number 166, fraction to recurring decimal. The difficulty level is medium, but don't worry because you already know we're going to keep the solution as simple and easy to understand as possible. But before we get started, y'all, don't forget to like, hype, subscribe, comment, and share. And if you need any new Apple AirPods, go ahead and check out that link in the description so you can get you some. Now let's see what the question says. Given two integers representing the numerator and denominator of a fraction, return the fraction in string format. If the fractional part is repeating, enclose the repeating part in parentheses. If multiple answers are possible, return any of them. It is guaranteed that the length of the answer string is less than 10 to the fourth power for all given inputs. All right, y'all, so that sounds pretty simple, but let's take a look at these examples anyway, just to make sure we're doing this problem correctly. So in example 1, we have our input numerator equals 1, our denominator equals 2, the output is 0.5. So how do we get that? We just did 1 divided by 2. That is going to give us 0.5, and that's how we got it. Similarly with, sorry, y'all. Boom, with example 2, our input numerator is 2, our denominator is 1, our output is 2. So once again, 2 divided by 1 is equal to 2. That's how we got that output. Let's take a look at example 3, where it's a little bit more tricky, but we should be able to get through it as well. So in example 3, we have our numerator equals 4, our denominator equals 333. So let's bring that over here. Sorry, y'all. 4, well, let's clean this up. But 4 divided by 333 is equal to, hold on. It's equal to 0.01212. Oh, no, it's not 12, but 0.012012. 012. It's a whole bunch of 012s, but this is what it's just repeating, right? So it says up here, if the fractional part is repeating, enclose the repeating part into parentheses. So since 4 divided by 333 is 0.012, we could just put the 012 in parentheses to let it know that it is repeating. So this is the same thing as this. So let's bring this over here, and boom. So that's how the question works, y'all. I hope that makes sense to y'all. And now that we understand the question, let's get into the fun part, the actual solution, y'all. Solution is not that difficult. So let's get into it. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to create our variables. So we're going to assume that the numerator and the denominator are given to us. So we're going to just create mutable copies of those. So we're going to create a mutable copy of numerator by coming right here, declare a variable called num, set that equal to numerator, boom. Then we'll make a mutable copy of the denominator by saying var dn equals denominator, boom. Then we need an array to build to store our result and build pieces of our output string. So we are going to declare a variable called result, and we are going to set that equal to an array of strings. Boom, like this, and then put the parentheses outside to initialize it. Boom. Then we need to check if the numerator is 0, then that means if the numerator is 0, then that means the fraction is just 0. So we can handle that with the guard statement. We'll say guard num exclamation point equals 0. So it does not equal 0. Else we could just open up the brackets and return 0, or put a quote 0 in the quotation marks because it needs to be a string. Boom. Then we need to determine the sign of the result, and we're going to append the negative sign if one operand is negative and the other is positive. So we could say if num, if open up the parentheses, num is greater than 0 and two and signs, then is less than 0, or come outside the parentheses, two vertical lines for or, open up the parentheses, num is less than 0 and two and signs, then is greater than 0. Then we'll come right here outside the parentheses, open up the brackets, and we'll say result dot dot append, open up the parentheses, open up the quotation marks, and put that negative sign in between those. Now we're working with absolute values from here on out. So we're going to come underneath this. If we're going to say num equals abs square bracket num, which will get us the absolute value. Then we're going to do the same thing for then. So we'll say then equals abs, open up the parentheses, pass in then. Now we need to append the integer part of the division by coming underneath this. We're going to say result dot append, open up the parentheses, string, open up the parentheses, num divided by then. Boom, we need to update the numerator to the remainder after integer division by coming underneath this and saying num mod equals then. Boom. Then we'll come underneath this. If there's no remainder, we're done, and we just need to return the current result. So we can say guard num exclamation point equals 0. Else we can open up the brackets and return result dot joined and put the parentheses. Boom. Otherwise, we need to handle the fractional part. So we could come underneath this and we'll say result dot append, open up the parentheses, open up the quotation marks, and put in the period. And now we need a dictionary to remember each remainder's position in the result. The key is going to be the remainder, and the value is the index in the result where this remainder first appeared. So we're just going to come underneath this, create our dictionary by saying var map, and we'll set that equal to a dictionary with the key being an integer and the value being an integer, and then we can initialize it with parentheses like that. Sorry, y'all, should be an equal sign right here. Then we could come underneath that, and we need to store the current remainder's index right after the decimal point. So we could come right here and we'll say map square bracket num, come outside the square brackets, we'll say equals result dot count. Boom. Then we need to do some long division to loop through to build the decimal expansion. So we're going to say, come underneath this, we're going to use a while loop, and we're going to say while num does not equal, so exclamation point equals 0. We're going to open up the brackets. We're going to bring down a 0 like manual division by saying num times equals 10. Then we're going to append the next digit to the quotient by saying result dot append, open up the parentheses, string, open up the parentheses, num divided by then. Then we need to update the remainder by coming underneath that and saying num mod equals then. Boom. And if we've seen this remainder before, that means we found a repeating cycle. So we'll come underneath this. We're going to say if let value equals map square bracket num. We're going to open up the brackets. We're going to say let index equal value. Come underneath that. We're going to insert the first parentheses at the first occurrence, because remember, this needs to be wrapped in parentheses if it's repeating. So we're going to insert this first parentheses. When I say the first parentheses, I mean we're going to insert this parentheses at the first occurrence. So we're going to say result dot insert, open up the parentheses, open up the quotation marks, pass in that first parentheses in the quotation marks. Then we're going to say comma at colon index. Then we need to append the the closing parentheses, so we need to append this parentheses at the end of the cycle. So we're gonna say result dot append, open of the parentheses, open of the quotation marks, and pass in that closing parentheses like that. Then if the repeating decimal is found, we need to stop. So we can say just call break. Then otherwise we need to record the index of this new remainder. So we could come right here and we're going to say else. We're going to open up the brackets and we're going to say map square bracket num. We're going to set that equal to result dot count. Boom. And now we just need to join all the pieces into a single string and return it by coming right here and say return result dot joined. Sorry, y'all. Joined, put the parentheses. Boom. That should be all she wrote, y'all. Let's give it a run. Let's give it a run. Okay, we have an error. So let's see. This should be like this. All right, now let's run it. See if that did the trick. It's accepted. So let's go ahead and submit it. Make sure it's still accepted after we submit it, because we all know how LeetCode can be. And look at that, y'all. 0 milliseconds beats 100% of users. So with that being said, make sure you get one more look at the code. This is the top part. This is the middle. And this is the rest of it, y'all. And yeah, y'all, with that being said, I hope y'all learned something today. And I hope to see y'all here tomorrow for another day, another LeetCode problem. See y'all then.